So you're thinking about buying a home, and you may have spent some late nights scrolling through Zillow. You may have even swung by an open house or two just to see what's going on. But now it's time to get serious.
So I know the process can seem a little daunting, and there are a lot of moving pieces, probably a little bit more than people really appreciate. But we're going to go through some of these things, kind of some tips, and just kind of break down the process a little bit for you guys. So if you're a first-time home buyer, make sure to stick to the end of the video so we can kind of walk you guys through of what that process looks like.
So, like we say, you've been looking through Zillow, and you may have been looking at some really nice houses. Chances are a lot of you can't afford.
Those are fun to look at.
We've all done it. We've all done it. But the most important thing you can do to start the process is speak to a lender. They are going to give you a good idea of where your financial situation is at, what you can do to possibly improve that situation, and give you a good idea of what you can afford, and then to help you start the process there.
Yeah, not just what you can afford, and this is what we kind of tell buyers too. What you might be qualified for when talking to a lender may be way more than what you're actually wanting to spend. So that's a conversation you want to have with a lender of working either forwards or backwards. So when I say that, what I mean is, hey, you're making X amount of money on a monthly basis. Here is your, you have student loans and a car payment, maybe credit card debt, or whatever. Maybe you don't have any debt, period. And you can just apply everything that you make on a monthly basis. And they're going to tell you, you qualify for $600,000. And then when they start talking to you about, here's what that looks like as a monthly home payment, $600,000 right now in today's market, what is it, 45?
Depending on what you put down, it's a lot of
$5,000 a month.
Yeah.
When I first qualified and purchased my first home, they told me I was qualified for like double to triple what my personal budget was on a monthly basis. So just because you're qualified up to a certain amount, they can also then work backwards the other direction. If you want to, I only want to spend $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
I want that to be my monthly payment. Then they can work and go, okay, with that being in mind, you're probably going to want to be around this price point.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of those that's helpful for people in the sense of, do you want to know the max qualification? Then you better know what that monthly payment's going to look like versus, hey, here's my budgeted, allotment for what I want to spend on a monthly basis.
Mm-hmm. And the rates are always changing as well. That's the other thing, especially recently, we've seen them going 6, 6.5, 7, back down, kind of up and down. You have to know exactly at that point what you're going to be spending, because you could be like, I want to spend $3,000 a month and I can afford X amount now, but you could wait around for a while, and then in 2 months' time, you could either afford a better house, or you actually could afford a lower priced house as well. So a lot of that comes down to being in contact with your lender constantly and sort of being aware of the situation at that time that you're looking, because again, it changes frequently.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things too. When we go show homes, I'm happy to show you guys whatever. But with that being said, if you're a buyer who is looking at, hey, you want to have this X monthly payment, and that's going to put you in the $400,000 to $450,000 price range. Okay, cool. That's what we need to look at. Now, not to say I love looking. We jokingly talk about going and seeing $1 million listings. They're fun to look at. Thank you, Thor. But I don't want I don't want to be able to set the expectations of like, oh, let's go look at $700,000 listings if your budget is really going to be at $400,000 to $450,000, because then it's tough to, after looking at a home that's in a different price bracket, to then go back and go, oh man, I got a pool and I was looking at 3,800 square feet with this home, and now I'm having to look at a home that's 2,200 square feet and doesn't have all these crazy upgrades. You want to kind of set expectations in a way that makes sense for you, so that you have kind of the right expectations going into that search process.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you're getting pre-qualified for a home, I would say, without a doubt, the number one misconception that you get with first-time home buyers:
down payment.
Absolutely.
It's the big myth. I think a lot of people still think it's,
They listen to our parents. It's like the previous generation, my folks, probably your folks out there, the old Gen X baby boomers.
Yeah, the 20, 30 years ago, buying a home and putting 20% down, it's just not the case anymore. It's not just the down payment. There's a lot of different ways around getting a loan. It's not just as straightforward as you put 20% down and you get this loan and that is it. There's plenty of creative ways as a first-time buyer for you to get under contract. But now, the minimum you only really need is 3 to 5%. We have quite a lot of first-time buyers who are putting down 3%. We actually
FHA programs, conventional programs.
Yeah, VA as well. We actually put 3% down on our first home, so it becomes a lot more realistic and a lot less daunting for people to say, okay, if I'm buying a $350,000 house, I only have to put down $11,500.
I don't need $70,000.
Yeah. And the thing is, the stat came out, and it was a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck, and a lot of people aren't in a position to put down $60,000, but most of us should. I say should. There's still the occasional one that doesn't, but most of us should have. Especially between, if there's two people buying a home, $10,000 to $15,000 saved away. So it's now become a lot more realistic for people to try and buy a home. Yes, the rates aren't great, but as far as down payments go,
I think people are shocked by that it doesn't. People just assume like, I can never purchase a home. It's not even the cards for me. It's never something I'm going to be able to do because I'm never going to have 20% down that I can just throw into a home. And not to say that 20% down isn't a good idea. There is PMI, and again, that's where you talk to a lender for them to break down those numbers for you. If you have it, it's not, I'm not saying don't do it, but it's not a requirement like a lot of first.
It's not the end of the world, so don't panic.
Yeah. All right, so now that you guys have done the homework and the numbers side of things, you've gotten pre-qualified, talked to that lender, now it's the fun part.
Yeah, you're putting those nights on Zillow into practice. There's pretty much two topics that you kind of want to look at for your home. You're going to want to look at the location, and you're going to want to look at the features of the home itself. And you've got to find out what is important to you and what you must have when it comes to these homes.
And that's going to be, like location. That's the piece of this that you cannot change. And there obviously are going to be features in the home that you can't change as well. And we'll talk about lot size and some of those things. But realistically, location is going to be, the home is where the home is. You're not picking that home up and moving it to a different city. So that's a fixed feature. Now with that, so that's going to be things that you need to kind of talk about if you're buying the home with yourself, with a partner. What's important to you guys? Is it being near work? Is it your drive time into work every day? Is it being near activities, friends, family? Those are going to all be factors that go into that to kind of help build that search criteria to then say, okay, now we have this area of the metroplex, or maybe this city, or this school district that you want to be in. So I think that's one of those that you kind of have to define pretty clearly to then go into kind of more of features in the home.
And then once you figure out where you're going to be, you're going to have to figure out what you want in a home. So whether you want 3 bedrooms, you want 4 bedrooms, you want a large yard, maybe you've got some pets that you want to be able to run around a bit. Maybe you have a lot of clothes, like some of our other halves, and you want a large closet, for example.
Do you have any of your closet?
I have but this much space. But there are things that you will want in a house, and there's things that you also won't know you want until you get into the home yourself. So what we suggest is you should walk through quite a few homes, because you'll see little things here and there about it. You go, oh, actually, I don't like that about this house, or I like that. For example, I have a client right now I'm showing leases to, and they do not want an electric stove. They need gas top.
Yep.
And you'll walk through the house, you'll see an electric top and go, oh, I don't want that. And maybe I think the newer homes now are doing it where they will put the laundry room with walk-in access through to the master closet.
Yeah.
Things like that. You'll go, oh, that's a really nice, convenient thing that I would like. So those things you can only really figure out when you walk through the home. You're not just going to see them all listed on Zillow. So it's a lot of walking the house, saying, I want this, and the other thing as well, what you've got to realize is your first home isn't also your forever home.
Yeah.
So
when I kind of with that, what I like to tell people is there's no such thing as the perfect home. Because as soon as you move into a home, I don't care if it was a 10 out of 10 when you're walking through it before, and you're like, this has everything that I want.
Yeah.
As soon as you move into a home, you're gonna find stuff that you're like, I really wish it had this, or that it didn't have this. So what I really try to tell buyers, especially, and this is something you guys could do right now while you're watching this video, sit down and kind of make a list and have 3 columns. So you'll have your deal breakers and your must-haves. And I usually say try to keep those to just a few. Don't get super nitpicky, but this would be something like backs to a railroad or backs to a highway. You don't want that. Must-have, I need to have a backyard. I have a dog, or I have dogs, and I want to have a backyard for my animals. Mm-hmm. Those are must-have or deal breakers, where if you look at it, then we can look at it and pull it up on a search and go, nope, doesn't have this or has this, cancel it off.
Yeah.
Then that middle column, that's where you want to come up with your 8 to 10 would likes. And that's not necessarily one way or the other. I would love to have a pool, but it's also, if I find the perfect home, I'm okay not having that. You know, I want bigger closets, but I could probably make do without those things.
And that helps us as well, because especially when you're looking at first-time home buyers, the chances are that your budget isn't going to be 600,000, 700,000, 800,000. You are going to be looking at that sort of entry-level home. You might be looking at 250 to 400,000, and there's going to be a lot of homes on the market in those price points, and not all of them are going to be great. There's going to be some not so great homes in there, and if we have a list, we put your criteria in, and we have a list of 100 homes, we're not going to show you 100 homes. No one has time to see 100 homes a weekend. So what we can do to sort of get around that is, we know that you want a fourth bedroom, we know that you want a larger yard, and we can go through those homes and say, okay, we found 10 homes that fit your criteria, and we want you to go through and say, okay, we'll go through this house, this house, this house, and that makes it a lot easier for you, and it makes it a lot easier for us. And we can,
well, then you can look at it and go, hey, this has, none of the deal breakers, all of the must-haves, and of that list of 10, 15, whatever it is of would likes, if you have 8 out of 10, that's a really solid object. That's a home. Let's go look at that one. Like, that's one that you want to go look at, and then go, hey, okay, it doesn't have X, Y, and Z. And this is where I try to help clients go, how could we remedy that? Is it, hey, the kitchen's a little closed off. Could we open that wall up to make it a little bit more accessible to, could you do some renovations or some tweaks to the home that would solve that problem that's there? And that's where, working with an experienced agent to look through those challenges with homes, it can be really helpful.
Thank you guys for watching. If you do have any questions about anything that we talked about during the video, or anything about the process itself, make sure, give us a comment below, or you can reach out to us with our information below as well. The process isn't a simple one. You may have been sat there, with your Zillow nights, with a glass of wine, thinking, oh, I'll just put some money down and I'll buy a house. It's not. But having the right people there to help you makes it a lot easier.
So if you guys like the content, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We are always here to help. Any questions you guys have, I know the favorite saying is, there's no such thing as a stupid question. There is. We might laugh. I did have a client ask me what insulation does. So there are stupid questions. But that being said, we're going to answer all of them. We're here to help you guys. The process can be difficult, but we're going to get you guys through it. So see you guys in the next one.